Hey there, truth seekers. I'm Larry Litton, your guide through the maze of modern politics and power dynamics on liberty, leadership, and lies. Each episode will challenge the narratives, expose the lies, and celebrate the leaders who champion true liberty. Get ready to question, learn, and maybe even change your mind. So let's dive into the truth together. Welcome back, listeners, to the second part of our discussion on the topic of lies, how the Republican and Democrat parties are two different organizations. As you know, this podcast dives deep into the principles that shape a free society, the leadership it takes to defend them, and the lies that threaten to undermine it all. I'm thrilled to continue our conversation today with Adam Brandon, a dynamic voice in the fight for liberty and a senior advisor at the Independence Center, which is a think tank dedicated to advancing economic freedom, individual liberty, and limited government. In part one, we explored Adam's journey into the liberty movement, his insights on the state of American politics, and the critical role of grassroots activism in pushing back against government overreach. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, hit pause, go back and give it a listen. It sets the stage perfectly for what we're diving into today. In this second part, we're going to dig even deeper into the practical steps for reclaiming liberty, the challenges of leading in a polarized world, and how the Independence Center is equipping everyday Americans to fight for their freedoms. For those just joining us, Adam Brandon brings a wealth of experience to the table. He's been a driving force at the Independence Center, where he's worked to influence policy and empower citizens to take a stand for principles like free markets, personal responsibility, and constitutional governance. His work focuses on cutting through the noise of today's political landscape to deliver clear, actionable solutions for preserving the American experiment. Today, we'll unpack some of those solutions, tackle the lies that distort the public square, such as the main theme of this series of discussions, and we'll talk about what it takes to lead with courage in these turbulent times. Before we jump in, let's set the stage. We're living in an era where trust in institutions is at historic lows. Government spending is ballooning, and divisive narratives seem to dominate every conversation. Yet, as Adam reminded us in part one, the principles of liberty, rooted in reason, individual rights, and limited government, those are timeless. The question is, how do we apply them in 2025 to address the challenges we face? From regulatory overreach to cultural shifts, Adam's got a clear-eyed perspective on what's at stake and how we can fight back. In this episode, expect a candid discussion on how to counter the lies that fuel big government policies, the leadership qualities need to inspire real change, and the Independence Center's innovative approaches to mobilizing citizens. Whether you're a seasoned activist or just someone who cares about the future of freedom, this conversation will leave you informed, inspired, and ready to take action. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get to it. Here's part two of my conversation with Adam Brandon from the Independence Center on Liberty, Leadership, and Lies. Welcome to Liberty, Leadership, and Lies, the podcast where we unravel the complex web of politics, power, and deception. Each week, we dive into the stories behind the headlines, exploring how liberty is eroded and the selfishness of our political leaders, as well as the lies that shape our world. Join us as we dissect the truth from fiction by examining the tactics used by the new aristocracy, the political class, at the local, state, and national levels of government as we dare to challenge the status quo. Get ready for thought-provoking discussions, exclusive interviews, and a journey into the heart of what really drives our society. Liberty, Leadership, and Lies, where your understanding of the world begins to change. Tune in every Monday morning and prepare to see beyond the veil. Stay tuned, because we're about to dive into the heart of what it means to lead for liberty in today's world. Let's do this. So once again, grab your sweet tea or your coffee, and let's get to it and take a stand in the arena together this week, ladies and gentlemen. with Mr. Adam Brandon. Here we go. Yeah, because this debt, oh, I warn my listeners all the time. There is no recovering from this amount of
I
debt.
I told my dad, remember I mentioned my dad is an evangelical,
Yeah.
so abortion is obviously his one of his biggest issues.
Mhm.
And I showed him stats that when the economy is bad, abortions skyrocket. And
Mhm.
when the economy is good, abortions fall. It's
But
just like
you're saying,
economy up, abortions down. Boom. It just moves like this. So I'm like, I'm not even talking about abortion, but I tell you what, based on that math, what is the world going to look like in a sovereign debt crisis?
that's going to be terrible.
I mean, abortion is going to skyrocket. So if abortion is your big issue, you should be caring about this issue. But everything else is a derivative of this spending. So if you crash the economy, I don't care what your issue. I mean, you're not if you're a big military hawk and we have a sovereign debt crisis, you're retreating across the world. Like you are cutting programs. You are sixth gen fighter, over. Developing new modern submarines, over. All of those things are over. Over. Hey, and what about, remember I mentioned that guy with no arms, lost
Mhm.
him over in the Mid East? What's going to happen to his health care in that world? I don't want to say it's over, but he's not going to get one of my friends who's a Marine, he said one of the things that the guys appreciate when they're charging into flying bullets is they know the United States will spend any dollar to put them back together.
Mhm.
And I think that is, I'm a spending guy.
Mhm.
Sign me up for that thing. I'll write that blank check. You get your leg blown off, you get your mind beaten up in a concussion. I want to spend that money to make you whole because of what you did so that my kids can sleep safe. Anything, but all of this comes back to this debt crisis. And that's why, I've actually have a lobbyist who told me, I really hope you guys are successful, because I'll give you guys 4 years to fix things. And then I'd like to go back to fighting over petty crap. But he's like, I need you guys to get in there and fix it first. So
Yeah, go back
I'm
to your dad,
optimistic we can. So that's
yeah, the evangelical, and I think the world debt crisis right now, I believe, is the biggest driver for the declining birth rates.
I gotta believe it's
Nobody
that
wants to bring a child into a debt-ridden world, especially if they're feeling the effects of that.
they're feeling the effects of it, right? And that's what I think people are realizing because I was asked this by a reporter, um, you know, and look, as a former, you know, operative in the Team Red,
Mhm.
we do kind of sound like we were crying. I've been spending my whole career talking about debt and deficits, and guess what? They haven't mattered to this point.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of done some harm. But that being said, the crisis is now here. And I think that the younger voter we have seen understands that their inability to be able to afford a home, there is a correlation to the government. Like if the government's going to have to get 4.5, 5% on its debt, you better believe it. You're going to have to pay 8%. And by the way, my wife and I started thinking about buying a new car. Hers is getting a little old.
Mhm.
I didn't realize interest rates are up to 8.5% on used cars. Maybe, honey, we could drive this car a little bit longer.
I, I went,
I
I
didn't
went
realize
23
that
years
jump.
before I bought a new truck for myself. Drove that thing into the ground. So, how big of a role is AI playing into your data and your
Massive,
massive? I mean,
massive.
is it has access to all the data and these trends?
We couldn't do what we're doing without it because we're using traditional polling methods, but polling is a snapshot at one specific second when you talk to a person and it moves because that person may change their opinions by the time the call's over even. So what we use AI for is watching conversations on like where we have our AI tuned so that we're watching Twitter, or X, we're watching Facebook, we're watching Reddit, we're watching all of these platforms. And so we get reports on what people are actually talking about. And that's where I understand what the political chattering class is talking about in Washington is often not what people are talking about that is concerning them in their own life. So we then take our traditional polling and methodologies and we match it up with what AI is providing for us. So we think we have intelligence far beyond what we used to be able to work with. So we're able to hear in real time. And that means when we start talking about issues such as how do you solve the entitlement crisis, we're going to be able to test, we're going to be able to put information out there and see how people react to it in real time and be able to course correct. So it's a complete change in information and policy formation. and it's giving us a complete edge. And then, frankly, we're able certain things that we used to have intro, college kids were fresh off, out of college doing research. We're totally replacing that, and then we're able to take that information and kind of upstream it, and so it's going to give us an ability to move faster and understand politics and understand what people are talking about. And this is where it also allows us. I think one of the big problems is people think the Congress isn't listening, the bureaucracies aren't listening. AI gives us the ability to listen.
Mhm.
So we're able to understand what the voters we're talking to, which we've broken down into 6 archetypes. We understand what they're saying. We also understand where they're forming their political opinions. So so when the Republicans and Democrats airdrop ads against us, that ad, can you imagine an independent who doesn't know what they're talking about getting elected? No one listens to that. We know no one listens to that. So that's how AI is changing things. And I will say this: I am very excited about what AI is bringing, but I am absolutely terrified about it too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to
Did nobody
me,
watch the Terminator movies?
we need to be, see, I'm hoping we could start to have a post-Republican, post-Democratic conversation. Like that, I mean, I want to talk about the uncomfortable stuff. I've got a young boy and a young girl, and you're going to start putting things like porn behind AI. You're going to start putting gambling behind AI. You're going to start putting all of these vices. And look, I'm no prude who's going to tell you what to do in your own life, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we're talking about some of these emerging threats in a way that, like, let's at least, when I was growing up, I always tell this to be like, how hard it was for me to score a Playboy when I was in middle school as a,
Right.
and now it's like finding you on a phone. Do you know how hard it was for me to gamble when I was in middle school? I mean, it was almost impossible.
Right.
What's finding me on my phone? So whatever vice you have, that vice is now finding you on your phone. Shouldn't we be having a conversation about this? I think we should, and that's one of these important conversations. I'm hoping independents can start to talk about how AI can augment and improve our lives at the same time. For the downsides, how do we start to respond to these downsides to make sure that we're not unleashing a tech? This is a technology on power with, like, you gotta be, it's like nuclear power. Nuclear power can power our homes, great, blow you up too.
Yeah. Melt
And
you.
AI is the same thing. It could destroy us. It could also make our lives a lot better. I'd really rather do the things that help make our lives a lot better.
Absolutely. I noticed well, Texas and Tennessee just recently passed or had their legislation survive a court decision
Mhm.
on the age verification for the porn sites
Yeah.
on. So that helped a lot because I think it was Pornhub or one of the others just decided to even stop allowing it to be accessed in the.
Again, I'm not going to tell you what to do in your own home. I'm not interested in being a school marm looking over your phone.
But if you're
But
18, go ahead and do it, but keep the kids away from
keep the kids out. I'm going to have a hard enough time raising my young boy.
it.
Don't make it harder on me, man. I'm going to teach him with values. I'm going to teach him all of this other kind of stuff. But it's not just that. It's like, what if he's in a weird phase in life and he wants to rebel, and all of a sudden, a terrorist group starts to reach out to him. Like, whoa, we need to have a conversation about how we're dealing with all of this stuff. And I don't think we are. So I honestly think debt's the most important issue, because if you wreck your society, then all these vices just go on, they go nuts. But at the same time, I would like to start having conversations, because, again, I look at healthcare. I think AI is going to have the ability to fundamentally change healthcare, make us healthier, and reduce costs. But at the same time, if we're all addicted to, I mean, look, every parent's nightmare is that you're watching TV downstairs, your kid gets a online delivery, they take fentanyl, and the next morning you go to see your kid and they're dead. Like, that happens in America today. It's going to happen today to some parents. And whenever there's a tragedy, I mean, my heart just freezes now that I've got, because I can't imagine losing my kids. I don't know how I'd recover from that. And so we as a society, I wish we could start having this conversation in an adult way.
Right. And we're not gonna be able to have it till we do get that debt thing. But debt and AI are
Well, let's
are
talk
our
about it.
biggest threats. And but it's
Mhm.
also the debt is also a big opportunity, right?
I look at it. Look, we're modern. This debt is because our systems got outdated.
Right. And if we fix it, because we know how to fix it,
Mhm.
if we fix it, it's an opportunity to show how that type of governing
Could get things
that
done.
makes America great again, right? That MAGA, but
I
it's
want, look, how can we not get Republicans and Democrats in the same room and be like, we want AI, we need to be the number one, you don't want to be number two in AI.
no.
You do not want to do that, right? And then we not even talked about quantum computing. When you start putting quantum computing behind AI, you're talking about, I can't even get my head around the speeds that you're going to have in
Right.
computing at that point. But you want to be number one in that because you don't want China to be number one. Because if China's number one in AI, you could have that situation where they would have the power to potentially like shut our military off,
Right.
and you don't want to be in a Pearl Harbor situation. So we need to have the balance of be having the world's best in class AI at the same time. I don't want to unleash that power on my 4-year-old.
Right. Absolutely. We got to responsibly handle that. And the best way to do it is through handling our debt. Because if that debt crisis is averted, we can focus more energy on making sure
Amen.
AI
Amen.
is responsive to us and not responsive to the Chicons. Because was that's saying that we are only 3 meals away from anarchy.
You really are. I always point out, you look at Katrina, yeah, it just takes a few days. Like if you don't have food and water, things break down pretty quickly. But I think the other thing that I would, that if we had a sovereign debt crisis here, and people lose hope, um, the dollar is a figment of our imagination. Our Constitution is a figment of our imagination. There's nothing behind these things except our collective belief that these things are real. And if these things are no longer valid to us, this is how societies collapse. And I'm not saying we're about to, but it is a risk. It
We're
is something that
close.
could happen. It
You
is
gave some
something
good
that could.
examples of prior countries servicing debt more than any other expense. They've all collapsed.
So I've had a couple people, you start looking at like the French Revolution. Little history lesson here. The French Revolution, unfortunately, the French bankrupted themselves financing our revolution. So I don't want to go too hard on the French for that one. But basically, they were so broke and they were spending so much money, they had to get they called in a finance minister for like, whoa, wait, we're actually really broke. Like, whoa, broke. We need to talk about this. And then they realized they were so broke, they had to call this a states general because, like, well, we need to raise taxes pretty quickly. And then the whole thing fell apart from there. That parallel, I could see that here.
It's
Like you were how broke? Wait a second. How broke are we?
we're
Oh no.
so broke that every even unborn child in America right now owes the government 6 figures, or the government took out a loan in the amount of 6 figures on everybody that's not even born yet.
But I will say, I've seen some crazy numbers. If you flatline the budget, like
Mhm.
you didn't cut, you like flatline the budget for 3 or 5 years, it's a radically different budget. Radically different. Like shockingly different. And that is not cutting, that is flatlining. And you allow the economy to grow 2-3% during that time period, all of a sudden things start to readjust a little bit.
Right.
But you gotta, I'm not cutting, I'm flatlining. I spent a lot of time in California, and if Governor Newsom didn't blow the budget on COVID spending, California would have like a $4 billion surplus right now. They're that close. They have a huge hole right now. It's going to be but again, it's not impossible. It's just got to tighten that belt a little bit.
But I mean,
Oh,
we've all grown accustomed to our government telling us that flatlining the budget is a cut.
now you're going to upset me. You're going to go there now. Do I look that stupid to you? Come on, man. I can't believe. Yeah, that's what they say. Like these dramatic cuts, and or even worse. We're going to take growth next year from 8% to 6%. Oh my God, there's going to be children in the street dying. It's like you're getting 6% more.
And tax cuts create a deficit.
Yeah.
The government doesn't make money. It
No,
doesn't produce money. It has to take from us
you have to take
first.
from someplace.
And it's us. I mean, they get first cut before we even realize what we're getting
So
paid.
this is what I found about the next generation, these younger people, is they actually, particularly you look at a lot of these people we've been looking at, these 30, 40-year-olds, they understand that because they understand they're paying off their student loans. They're worried about their parents. And if their parents have enough money because they have to take care of their parents, they're trying to save for their kids' college. They're
Yeah.
trying to buy a house. Oh yeah. And then maybe they need a new car like I do. Like they understand the challenges that we're facing. And so do I wish I had money for everything? Absolutely. I wish I could give you $100 today. I just could give every one of your listeners $1,000. Just reach in my pocket. Can't do that.
Right.
And if I did that, I'd be bankrupt overnight. So I think everyone realizes this is the conversation we need to have, and people are ready for the conversation. But again, I believe the only people ready to have that conversation are truth tellers, and the only truth tellers I see out there are independents. Because independents, like when I get out there and talk policy, I don't have to worry about offending Republicans or Democrats. It doesn't matter. I'm just talking about numbers and the truth.
Right. Maybe that cycle of civilization that every civilization's gone through, the hard times create strong men. Maybe this is the hard times creating a more fiscally strong generation.
I 100% believe that to be true.
You know, I mean, I've seen the struggles my own child. She's going to be 34, going through fiscally,
Yeah.
and it's definitely a struggle. I mean, my wife and I struggled early on because I was in the military, right?
Yeah.
30 years in the Navy. We weren't the richest, of course.
Yeah.
There were struggles, but I get people that do go through that, I think understand more of
It's a transition. I think when historians look back on this era, we're living in this is the end of the post-Cold War era.
Mhm.
And so when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, we kind of stumbled into this unipower, sole superpower world.
Mhm.
And then, and I don't know when where you would say, like, I could argue, the Russian invasion of Ukraine was the end. You could argue the financial crisis of 2007 was the end. But at some point, historians are going to pick one of these global moments as like this was the end of that post-Cold War era. We're in a new era right now, but we don't know what that era is yet.
Right.
This could be the era of the American terminal decline. This could be the era of the financial crisis. This could be, we look back on that, or this could be the era of American renewal. This
Right.
could be the era of we had a bit difficult financial crisis, and it ends up being a boring footnote in history. And Congress came together and passed some legislation, and people said it was good, and people said it sucked, and it worked.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the standards of living in the United States skyrocketed again. I would like that version.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the version I'm going to go out and fight for. So
now, speaking of independence, and
Mhm.
we have a couple in our Congress right now,
Right.
but they come with the stigma that they 100% of the time caucus with.
That's it. So that's to me, an independent caucus is not with Republicans, not with Democrats. And I think this is part of the challenge we're going to face with this movement is that the independent brand is just so damn powerful that everyone's going to want a piece of it and they're going to use it. And then, I'm going to independent, but I'm going to caucus with the Republicans. I'm going to independent. I'm going to go caucus with the Democrats. The independents are only strong if they caucus alone. And that's why my group, I'm working with others out there in this space. We're going to try and create a support network for these independent members so that we can help them with policy. We can help them with air cover, like talking to voters. We can help them with money. We can help them with you name it. And but they have to remain, they have to caucus on their own. And the other thing I always want to call out is anyone who says, well, look, I'm a bipartisan member. And then you look at it, oh, you won't bipartisan? You only vote with your party 97.5% of the time.
There's 2.3% I vote with everybody else. I'm bipartisan.
Yeah, and it's like, but we can call a spade on that one, and just be like, look, if you want to be bipartisan, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a debt and deficit commission, and we're going to do some serious work on how we're going to fix this problem. No grandstanding. Fix this problem. Other things too that we could do, like I think people forget, Doge is actually pretty popular with the Senate. I mean, it's popular because everyone agrees we should make this the most efficient government possible. Now, my friend poor Elon there jumping up on stage with the chainsaw. That's not the look you want to do, man. I mean, because look, there are people losing their jobs. There are going to be some things like that. Don't look like they don't want the frat boy. They want the boring person. I point out at the end of World War II, we had something called the Hoover Commission, which we all heard about all these, three-letter agencies that started under the New Deal. We never talk about the Hoover Commission that unwound them all, most of them. I mean, Social Security stayed, but all of these, in the Tennessee Valley, stayed, but a lot of these other things are gone. So the Hoover Commission proved you can actually unwind these big programs. BRAC, the Base Realignment Commission that happened in the 90s at the end of the Cold War. Again, that's very difficult when you have to close down districts, bases and districts. They did it. Canada did something I've been studying called program review, which in the 90s, Canada was heading to a fiscal crisis. And they basically got all the different parties together. They looked at the Canadian budget. The first thing they did was dedupe, and they would find, okay, there's 8 departments doing the same thing. How about one person does this now, and we'll double its budget, but we can cut the rest. And Canada was able to put itself on a pretty good fiscal footing. This has been done before, folks. This is not impossible. It just takes a little political will and some courage. And again, I think the independents are there enough to show times are different. We can do this now.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon, or Mr. Brandon,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure having you on. Where can the listeners find?
Go to independencecenter.org, please sign up, and you'll get our information. And what you'll start to see, we have 3 organizations, and then the other 2 are just getting fired up right now, the PAC and everything else. But you go to the independencecenter.org, get on our newsletters. We invite everyone to join us, and we look forward to. Democracy is not a spectator sport. You got to get involved. You got to get involved. And my mother-in-law have this fight all the time. She says that politicians don't listen. Guys, I can tell you they listen. They listen a lot. They listen a lot more than you think. You got to call them. You got to call their office and tell them how you feel about something. But my goodness, they have offices close to you. When you go and visit a congressman's office and you say, I'm Joe Smith from your district and I believe in this, you put fear into that congressman's heart. Yep. The person they're scared of the most is their voters, because they know if you take the time to get involved, there's 10 of you thinking the same way. There's 100 of them thinking the same way. And so anyone who's listening here, we're going to try and help people get involved, but you don't need my help. Go to your local congressman's office, tell them what you think, and then ask them for responses.
Citizenship in a republic it's a responsibility.
It's a responsibility. We do have the government that we do deserve.
It's one of the mottos that I have on this podcast. You have to be the man in the arena, willing to get marred and dirty and bloody, or you lose your freedom every day. And the biggest,
you're fighting for your own freedom, guys. You are, and your and my kids' freedom too.
Yeah.
So I would appreciate it if you get fired up and go out and be like, and by the way, going to visit your congressman and your senator. It's once you do it, you realize how easy and refreshing it is to actually make your voice heard. You become a repeat visitor, and that's what they're really scared of, is the repeat visitor. Here's what I'll leave you on. Mick Mulvaney, former chief of staff in the White House, former congressman, was giving a speech to a banking lobby once, and he said, if you show up, and he was saying the quiet part out loud, and I appreciate him saying this. He said, if you show up in my office and you're a lobbyist and you never gave me money, no one's talking to you. If you show up in my office and you're a lobbyist and you gave money, someone's going to talk to you. But if you came from the district, they're pulling me out of meetings to go talk to you.
Nice.
Think of that. Every congressman thinks the same way. The people on this podcast, you guys do not realize the power that you have. You are not using the power that you have. All the money in politics, it doesn't really matter, actually, because it's trying to influence you. So if you are impervious to that influence and you make your voice heard, you, and drag your family too, and your friends, you can save the country.
Well, Adam, thank you once again. I'll hang up a link to the website in the comments to this episode, and I hope to get back with you after the midterms to see how things went.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not unemployed and looking for a new career at that point, and hopefully I'm really excited to share with you the work we're going to do in the new Congress. But there's a lot of fight ahead of us. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate you doing this, and thank you for being such a great conduit of information to your community.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Take care.
Well, folks, that will wrap up part 2. And please tune in next week for the conclusion in part 3 of our discussion with Adam. Once again, here's the weekly plug for the annual Freedom Festival being put on by the Tennessee Constitutional Grassroots Coalition. It is scheduled for October 4th. Again, it's in Loudon, Tennessee. There are a bunch of great speakers and entertainers lined up for your enjoyment, and they're adding more all the time. For more information, visit their website. It is tcgc1776.org. Again, that is tcgc1776.org. Now, for my fellow Tennesseans, please keep a watch on the electoral battle happening right now for Congressional District 7 seat right here in our beloved volunteer state. The field is getting packed, which is no surprise. One of the most concerning candidates in that special election, and no, it isn't the commies candidates, is State Representative Lee Reeves. He is the establishment pick and would do more harm than the Democrat if that person were to be elected. He is a transpublican's transpublican, and every effort should be made to deny him that congressional seat. He'll talk a big game about his loyalties to Trump and Make America First, but his real loyalty is only determined by the political wins. Like most of the commies in elected office today, his principles are about as firm as a wet spaghetti noodle. In closing, this week's wisdom from God's word comes to us from the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. We as a nation know what is good and what is required, but we as a nation have failed to act upon that for generations now. If we acted justly, we would not let our apathy drive our republic to the state it is in right now, where the national debt is about to destroy us, where our government and its institutions have been weaponized against the very creator endowed rights enshrined in our Constitution, where weasels can publicly assume the mantle of a champion for liberty only to profit from establishment ties and illegal immigrant rent payments, and on the list goes. The recent revelations by DNI Tulsi Gabbard, well, not new information to more than 70 million Americans, it has exposed the rot of those institutions. We shall see if those in elected office at the national level today will act justly in the coming weeks. Do not be surprised, though, if nothing does happen. Many, far too many people in our nation's capital, as well as our state's capitals, believe that preserving the institutions in their current forms are a much better alternative than correcting course and returning the ship of state back to its constitutional course. That's it for this week, folks. Be sure and tune in for part 3 of our discussion next Monday. So until next week, Reveille, it's time to wake up.